Everyone told us not to buy this car. They said it is better left on a movie poster than in a garage, and statistically they were right. We just bought the automotive world's most famous disappointment, the DeLorean DMC-12. It is an icon, sure, but beneath that stainless steel skin lies a tragedy of engineering. 0 to 60 in 10 seconds, and wiring that is notorious for catching fire. But we have a crazy idea. We are not just restoring it, we are going to fix the 7 fatal flaws that ruined its legacy. We are aiming for 400 horsepower and modern reliability. Can we actually redeem the most hated supercar in history, or is this thing going to bankrupt us first? You need to see what we found when we first put it on the lift. The diagnosis of a broken promise. The moment we got this thing into the shop, the reality of 1981 engineering hit us hard. You look at those gull-wing doors and expect a spaceship, but the driving experience is more like a farm tractor. We strapped it to the dyno immediately to get a baseline, and the numbers were heartbreaking. The original PRV V6 engine was rated at 130 horsepower from the factory, but after 40 years of decay, our dyno read just 112 horsepower at the wheels. That is less power than a modern Honda Civic, pushing a car that weighs nearly 2,800 pounds. It is pathetic. But the lack of power was not even the scary part. While inspecting the undercarriage, we noticed something that legitimately terrified me. The DeLorean uses a mild steel backbone chassis coated in epoxy, and ours looked decent from a distance. But when I took a screwdriver to the front crumple zone, it went straight through the metal like wet cardboard. This is known as frame rot, and it kills 90% of these cars. We did not just buy a slow car, we bought a death trap held together by rust and optimism. We have to make a choice right now. Scrap the shell and lose our investment, or cut the entire car in half to fix it. We chose the hard way. To fix that rot, the body has to come off the frame, a process most mechanics refuse to touch. It involves disconnecting the brake lines, the steering column, and about 50 rusted bolts that have not moved since the Reagan administration. The DeLorean body is fiberglass with stainless steel panels hung on it. So if we crack the fiberglass tub during the lift, the car is totaled. We spent 6 hours soaking bolts in penetrating oil, and even then, we snapped 3 body mounts. As we started lifting the body, the sound of fiberglass creaking filled the shop. It was agonizing. We needed 4 inches of clearance to roll the chassis out, and at 3 inches a hidden ground strap we missed started pulling the entire wiring harness taut. If that snaps, we are looking at weeks of electrical rewiring. We caught it with literally millimeters to spare. With the chassis finally rolled out, we could see the full extent of the damage. The front cross member was gone, but looking at this bare skeleton gave us a wild idea. Since the original engine is garbage and the frame needs welding anyway, why put the old heart back in? This is where purists are going to hate us. But numbers don't lie. The original 2.85-liter V6 is a sluggish nightmare, famously designed by Peugeot, Renault, and Volvo by committee. We needed something that fits the supercar look. We looked at the data. An LS swap is common, but it is heavy. A 2JZ is too long. We decided on a Honda K24 with a massive turbocharger. Why? Because a stock K24 block can handle 500 horsepower reliably, and it weighs 150 pounds less than the V6. And parts are available at any auto parts store. This changes the power to weight ratio from a miserable 0.04 horsepower per pound to a Ferrari rivaling 0.17. However, fitting a tall inline-4 into an engine bay designed for a flat V6 is a geometry puzzle from hell. We had to fabricate custom engine mounts from scratch using CAD design. When we test fit the engine, the turbo manifold hit the rear frame rail. We were off by ½ an inch. We had to notch the frame, a structural modification that, if done wrong, compromises the rigidity of the rear suspension. We welded in reinforcement plates, remeasured, and dropped it in. It fits, but now we have a new problem. How do we mate a modern Japanese engine to a French transmission from the 1980s? The stock Renault transaxle in this car was designed to handle maybe 150 pound-feet of torque on a good day. Our new turbo setup is going to push nearly 350 pound-feet. If we launch this car once, that gearbox will turn into a grenade of neutral gears. We considered swapping in a Porsche G50 transmission, the same one used in the 911 Turbo, but those cost upwards of $10,000 in today's market. We do not have that budget, so we are taking a massive gamble. We are sending the stock transmission to a specialist to install a billet input shaft and cryogenically treated gears. Cryogenic treatment involves freezing the metal to minus 300 degrees Fahrenheit to align the molecular structure, theoretically increasing strength by 30%. It is a trick used in drag racing, but nobody has really pushed it on this specific transmission before. We are essentially betting the entire build on the science of frozen metal. We bolted the upgraded transaxle to the engine using a custom adapter plate that cost us $1,200 alone. It looks bulletproof on the bench, but until we put load on it, we will not know if we just built a glass cannon. And speaking of glass, we need to talk about why this car handles like a boat. You would expect a mid-engine car to handle like a go-kart, right? Wrong. The original DeLorean had a ride height that was famously raised at the last minute to meet US bumper regulations, ruining the suspension geometry. It has a weight distribution of roughly 35% front and 65% rear, which makes the front end feel light and floaty at highway speeds. It is scary. To fix this, we are not just replacing shocks, we are redesigning the geometry. We sourced a set of fully adjustable coilovers that allow us to drop the ride height by 2 inches, restoring the design Colin Chapman of Lotus originally intended. But dropping the car creates a bump steer issue, where suspension travel unintentionally steers the wheels. We had to install adjustable lower control arms to correct the angle. We also upgraded the sway bars to be 40% stiffer than stock. When we put the wheels back on and set it on the ground, the stance finally looked right, and it looks aggressive. But a car that looks good is useless if it does not start. We have arrived at the most dreaded part of any DeLorean project, the Prince of Darkness electronics. The electrical system in the DMC-12 is legendary for all the wrong reasons. It uses a fuse box that melts because it was not rated for the amperage the fans draw. We found melted plastic on our fuse block within 5 minutes of inspection. We are not patching this, we are ripping every single wire out. We are building a modern, military-spec wiring harness controlled by a solid-state power distribution module, PDM. A PDM replaces fuses with digital chips that reset themselves. If a fan shorts out, the system tries to restart it 3 times, and then alerts us on a digital dash, rather than burning the car to the ground. This sounds great, but wiring a PDM is like defusing a bomb. 1 crossed wire on the ECU pinout, and we fry our $2,000 engine computer. We spent 3 days crimping over 400 individual connections. My fingers are raw. We turn the key to test the fuel pump priming, and silence. Nothing. The PDM is showing a critical fault on the main ignition circuit. We traced the voltage drop for 4 hours, sweating bullets. It turns out the inertia switch, a safety device from the 80s meant to cut fuel in a crash, had tripped simply from us jacking up the car. We bypassed it. The fuel pump whirred to life. Now, the moment of truth is getting closer. Before we drive, we have to address the stainless steel. You cannot paint a DeLorean unless you are crazy, and you cannot use Bondo on dents. The grain of the stainless steel has to be regrained using a specific blending pad. Our car had a massive scratch on the rear quarter panel, likely from a bicycle handle decades ago. To fix it, you have to sand the metal in perfectly straight lines. If you curve your hand even a little bit, you ruin the panel, and replacement fenders cost $3,500. It took 6 hours of hand sanding one panel to match the factory grain. We also replaced the halogen-sealed beams with modern LED projectors that fit the retro aesthetic, but actually illuminate the road. The interior, originally a sea of gray plastic, got rewrapped in Alcantara to kill the rattles. We added sound-deadening material to the floor because the engine is inches behind your head. The cabin is now a cockpit, not a plastic box. The car looks like the million-dollar concept it was supposed to be. But looking cool is easy. Driving a 400-horsepower Frankenstein car is a different story. It is time. We have oil pressure, we have fuel, we have a laptop hooked up to the engine control unit to monitor the air-fuel ratios. If this tune is off, the turbo will lean out the engine and melt a piston in seconds. I turned the key. The K24 cranked for a terrifyingly long 4 seconds before roaring to life. It does not sound like a DeLorean anymore. It sounds like an angry rally car. The turbo whistle is deafening in the garage. We let it get up to temperature, checking for leaks. No oil on the floor. That is a miracle in itself. But idling is one thing, driving is another. We pulled it out of the bay, the new suspension settling with a creak. I merged onto the industrial road behind the shop. The clutch is heavy. First gear engages with a mechanical clunk. The cryo-treated gears are loud. I rolled onto the throttle. The boost gauge swept past 10 psi instantly. The rear tires, 245 width modern rubber, scrambled for traction. This thing is not just faster, it is violent. The original car took 10 seconds to hit 60. I matted the pedal, shifted to second, and we hit 60 in roughly 4.2 seconds. We drove it for 50 miles that day. We waited for the overheating, the electrical fires, the transmission explosion. It never happened. The coolant temperature stayed pinned at 185 degrees. The handling is sharp. It turns in with zero body roll. We took the most laughed at supercar in history, a car that became a joke about reliability, and turned it into something that can genuinely keep up with a modern Porsche Cayman. We realized that the DeLorean was not a bad car, it was just an unfinished one. We fixed the power, we fixed the chassis, and we fixed the reputation. It took us hundreds of hours and more money than I want to admit, but looking at it now, it is finally the car John DeLorean dreamed of. But just as we were celebrating, pulling back into the driveway, we heard a snap from the rear axle. The car lurched to the left. Remember that custom axle stub we were worried about? Yeah, we might have spoken too soon. You are not going to believe what actually broke.